Welcome to veterinarycareers.com.au. Today we have an extra special guest I'd like to introduce to you. Dr. Kimberley Khodakhah is here with us from Philadelphia in the US. And Dr. Kimberley Khodakhah is an accomplished small animal veterinarian. She has practiced in several states across the US in several leadership positions, including Associate Veterinarian, Medical Director, and Hospital Director. She has had a passion for collaborating with and mentoring veterinary techs, nurses, we call them over here, as well as vet associates. And as a certified professional coach, she is in a great position to mix her love of animals and her desire to support the vet community. Dr. Khodakhah founded Vetopia Incorporated with this in mind and provides several mentoring and career transformation programs for members of the veterinary field. And that's how we found each other.
Yeah.
Particularly strong focus of Dr. Khodakhah's is providing tools and strategies to new vet graduates to not only survive but thrive in their first years following graduation. And the ultimate aim of her coaching is to help veterinary colleagues create a happy, successful and sustainable career. Dr. Khodakhah continues to practice medicine part-time as well as volunteers with the Wolf Conservation Society and in the SPCA in Fiji. Welcome today, Kimberley. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Emma. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. We'll launch right in then. Is it all right if I call you Kimberley? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. We've chatted at length the last couple of weeks. We're having a great time learning about each other and their respective professions in the States and in Australia. So great. So tell us which university you graduated from.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia and graduated in 1996. So I've been working for 23 years now in small animal practice.
Oh, great. And what projects are you working on within and outside of work at the moment?
Yeah, so since 1996, things have changed quite a bit. Currently, I work part-time per diem or relief, what we say here, as in small animal medicine. And I also do my consulting the other half of the time. And so I really enjoy this mixture of passions, I guess, that I have. So I'm working on growing the business, collaborating with great people doing similar things like yourself in the field. And as you said, I also am following those other parts of interest, which are working with animal welfare and starting a exchange/externship in Fiji. We're practicing medicine, doing spay neuters. I have a team of veterinarians that are going out actually in March. And but we're really trying to gear this up so that vet students and new grads can go get excellent hands-on experience and get a comprehensive exposure to really set them off in their first year really successfully.
That sounds great. May I ask, how did the connection with Fiji come up? How did that?
You know, that's a great question. One of the things that I talk about in my podcast and in coaching is one has to take advantage of opportunities in life. So I was looking and saw that they were looking for help with veterinary help in Fiji. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote back and said, yeah, I like traveling. I could go to Fiji. And then I actually followed up like about 15 minutes later, and I was like, you know what? This would be a perfect opportunity to get an externship program and something more long-term. And I wrote and was like, would you be interested in that? And they were like, yes. And so it's just really snowballed from there. So just a flash of an idea. Like I said, I like traveling. the work that you can do, and lots of people do exchanges in different countries and stuff like that. It's so rewarding. People are so appreciative. You can make such an impact. And really, it was taking advantage of opportunity, asking, do you want to do this? And off it went.
Good on you. It's great how you can make your own opportunities, isn't it? I've done that a number of times, and I think it's great. Like, you just think that would be a good idea and probably doesn't exist, but then, you know, if you pick up the phone, it might exist. You just might need to, you know, start the ball rolling on something. So congratulations.
Exactly. You know, sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you know what? A lot of the times I think it works for the better. Things work out, and, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So, yeah.
That sounds exciting. I look forward to hearing more about Fiji, and yeah, secretly hoping to come over and visit.
Well, I was going to say, I might just stop back by through you.
Right. No, Fiji does sound good from any point in the world to get to. So you're quite a motivated person, and what do you think has given you that motivation throughout your veterinary career?
Yeah, you know, I just have I've always had such a passion for helping animals, you know, their innocence, their unconditional love. It just mushes me up. You know, I love it. And even when they're in pain, they tolerate what you're doing. And, you know, I find that innately rewarding. And I have also been fortunate with the majority of clients of having very good relationships with them. And I think that they're also very, I enjoy sharing my knowledge and my experience with them, coming up with a treatment plan on how we can best help or manage their pet situation. And so every day that really is just going to work in that aspect is very rewarding for me. I also really love the connections, positive connections with the vet nurses, the other staff, you know, just working together to solve the puzzle of medicine or surgery, what's going on, to help teach and share and really bond with each other. So I love it. I find that very inspiring, and I'm fortunate to be able to do that.
I'll throw you in a bonus question following up that. Burnout is such a common thing. How have you avoided burnout, or have you avoided burnout in your career while you've been staying motivated? Like, it's fantastic to hear all of that, like the energy that you derive from practice. Has that always been the case, or?
Great question. Yeah, no, I was coming to that. No, I have a burnout story too. So about 5 years ago, I was starting to care for I was the primary caretaker for a mother with dementia. I had 2 teenage kids, which really, actually, they're very good, but teenagers nonetheless. I worked full time, and really, I worked in a very toxic, chaotic environment. And so what happened in retrospect is that my resilience was just worn down. And over time, it really had an impact. And in hindsight, I was diagnosed with, you know, mild depression. Actually, I don't even know if you can have mild depression. I mean, can you be mild diabetic? Yeah, I don't know.
That's right. It's either one or the other, isn't it? We wouldn't diagnose them all.
I think so. But on the test, they kind of say, oh, well, yeah, you got it, but there's worse. So anyway, but yeah, you know, it has, it does have an impact. And so, yeah, the things I would do differently and have learned, but all things being even or equal, if I'm able to perform with a certain amount of energy in me and consciousness and environment, then I get into that good space.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you are just such a positive person to interact with. So I can feel your energy from the other side of the world. So keep doing whatever you're doing now. That's great. And it's funny how sometimes we have to go through those periods to learn the lessons, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. You know, you don't really know sometimes it's happening while it's happening. You know, you kind of, unfortunately, I hit a bit of a wall with how I was feeling, my behaviors and different things like that. I have a very supportive husband who was like, I think we need to do something. And I was like, yeah. So yeah, I was fortunate that way.
Yeah, good on you. No, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That's great.
So anything to inspire our colleagues that things can change.
Yeah, no, well, I really appreciate that, and I'm sure that everybody will. What have been the major transitions in your career?
Yes, so the main transition was that kind of burnout situation. That was a wake-up call for me. I started at that point getting more aware of personal development and the impact that I can have on my own choices and control what I want to tolerate and not tolerate. I think a lot of the times, especially in the earlier years, you know, you're either trying to figure out medicine or then you have kids and you're just trying to get through the end of the day and different things like that. But no, I've now really been able to sit back and orchestrate and live with a bit more intention. So that really was a major transition for me. Starting my business was a really big change, big growth point. And in hindsight, I think I also stopped growing in some ways. I mean, sure, I was doing other things like, you know, raising a family and learning more about medicine and different things like that. But, you know, growing a business and starting a business is such a new step for me. I know you have family in business, but it was such a new step for me that it actually was starting a journey which each step that I made, I kind of gained more confidence and different things. So that's definitely been a big change for me personally and with what I'm doing. And then also the relief work has been quite rewarding in that I get to pick and choose which hospitals I want to work at and when. So that's also been a very satisfying experience. I actually have found that I actually enjoy 99% of the places that I've been working. So I don't know whether it's my state of mind or the places. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's there's some gems of wisdom in that. Again, I'm not sure if it's how you walk into when you're a locum, when you walk in and you're supporting a team, but there is something very special around that arrangement. And I think it's around the gratitude that they have, that you're there to help, and that maybe the energy that you walk into and receive from them, which is help is here and we're so glad that you're here. Whereas my experience in normal practice when I was just working full time was, you know, people wouldn't necessarily greet you with the same energy every day, and everyone was more trudging, you know, dragging their feet to get to work rather than being happy to see each other. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and I think also that, you know, I think when you're in that groove or grind, whatever, a groove can become a grind, and you're right. And then the energy changes, and I think we start putting a lot of judgments and things. You know, I know that now people say, oh, well, would you mind speaking to Mrs. Jones? She can be a little tough and yeah. And because I might never speak to Mrs. Jones again.
Yeah, so
it doesn't bother me, you know.
Yeah.
It really, and I think when I don't jump to that level, you know, they're like, oh, okay, and you know, I'm trying to help, and they kind of, I bring them up a little bit. So I think it's a refreshing position to be in.
Great way. Yeah, that's even further. Into that dynamic, and that's a really good point. Thank you. That you're not carrying around the weight of the world from that practice already. You'll come with fresh eyes and a fresh attitude, and yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Very good. So what has been a really big highlight of your career to date? One that you're proud of?
Highlight. Well, you know, as I mentioned before, I'm believe it or not, a personality, compulsive go-getter, and I really love solving the puzzle of medicine and practice. So really every day, most of the time, even I went to I work at several hospitals like once a week for semi-long term, and just yesterday I was there, and there was a dog that had chronic off and on diarrhea, and I was like, you really need to get an ultrasound. I think enough is enough. And so she ended up having, unfortunately, badness. But I love that puzzle. I love the putting the pieces and things together. And so, you know, every day that's really a big highlight to me. Helping the owners, sometimes they think there are no options, so they're very worried, yet sometimes we can develop options or a plan, or at least minimize some discomfort in some situations, and so they're very appreciative. So that's definitely a highlight. I also like working with veterinarians when I'm able to give them a little bit of some skills or tools to realize that no, they're not stuck either, you know, where they are in their negative situation or their unhappy situation, and you know, wow, I never thought about that. You know, I'm sure you've heard it as well. Wow, I never thought about that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you came up with it. We just peeled it out. So that's also, those are my highlights. Really just being able to make changes and make rewarding situations for people. Yeah.
Good on you. That sounds lovely. Yeah, it's nothing nicer than helping people, is there? It's such a satisfying job, whether we're doing coaching or whether we're in the consult room. So
yeah, it can be a downfall, because sometimes, you know, there's some people you can't help, and actually we were talking before about this sense of significance with that. So, you know, we can't let, when things don't work our way, you know, drag us down either. But most of the time, there's a silver lining in there if you look for it.
Yeah, that's good. If you look for it, you just have to look for it, don't you? That's right. So what's your long-term vision? What's your long-term goal? Like about 10 years out, what are you working towards?
Yeah, I'll give you my 5-year vision, because I'm not really clear on my 10-year vision. I don't really want to get old, but maybe I will be old in 10 years. But right now, I'm balancing, you know, the consulting with the personal connections I can make at work and in practice. And I don't see any reason to change that. I would like to expand my leadership roles in the veterinary community to really make an impact on the bigger scope of the field, and really shifting, you know, letting people know we put our heart into everything. We try our best on every single case, and you know, we and have society kind of know and accept that, and then also to give permission and have a united front from the veterinary field, that knowing we've done that, it's okay to then go home. And it's not like we all don't occasionally think about a case, and you know, because it's bugging us or something like that. But to disconnect, I think we need to allow each other, whether you want to do that or Joe wants to do that, but make it acceptable for other people to disconnect and get the balance from family, friends, other recreational areas, to make it a more complete and sustainable situation. And that's unique to everybody. So, you know, I don't really want my ideas to And what I need now is totally different than what I needed, 15 years ago. So I think we need to make the community aware of growth and changes and transitions that we may or may not be going through, and make it tolerant, an acceptance and tolerance for everybody, to do what's right for them. Yeah.
And what do you do in your time off, Kimberley?
Well, my favorite thing is traveling. But my more local thing is I like being outside. My husband calls me the worst gardener in the world because I don't really know what I'm doing, but I dig and I weed and I move things, and I'm in the sun, and my dog's laying with me, and I can just spend hours doing that kind of thing. I'm not able like you to have a farm or any of that. I think I would like to, except for, when I throw that out to my family, they're like, oh, Mom, poop. So that I haven't gotten very far, especially being in New York or the suburbs of New York. But being outside, traveling, and I'm now acknowledging the importance of socializing for me as being a real booster to and need for me. So I consciously put that into my schedules.
Oh, good on you. That sounds great. And did I see you on a sailboat the other week?
Oh, yeah. So my husband loves to sail, so we have a compromise. I'm outside. I actually get seasick, so I dose up on Dramamine and everything, but I generally like it quite well. I like fishing. We fish together, and so yes, we do that. He's able. That was a work visit. Nice. That we went to. So, I was able to do some work on the lounge chairs, and then in the afternoon we went out and did a few things together.
Sounds great. No, I think that balance is so important, that you're doing some other things, because you give so much in vet, like you're giving and looking after everyone else. So that self-care time and where you can be re-energized is so important.
Yeah. And even when I'm passionate, the one thing that I am trying to do better or differently is I'm quite good at exercising in terms of a walk and that kind of thing, but I really would like to, and think it would be better for my health and aging if I did something a little more intense. And so but as we all do, we get drawn into this passion moment where we want to work on this and the other. And so whether it's medicine, your business, etc., I'm still learning to peel myself away, schedule something different, and keep the balance. Yeah.
Good on you. Lovely. So what advice would you give a younger you if you're looking back?
Yeah. Don't try to do everything. I'm like the get it done girl in my immediate family, in my extended family. If there's a vacation, I plan it, I organize it. And I remember having many conversations and thoughts of, well, if I could be more efficient, if I could be more organized, I could put more and more and more on my plate. And that worked for a very long time. And then it didn't. And then I thought it was something wrong with me, and I became less flexible, because the more I needed to do, the more I needed to control and have things my way. And the more frustrated I got when things didn't go my way, because I've got to get this done in the next 7 minutes, because I'm on to my next project, or, a doctor's appointment for my mom, or time to cook dinner, or whatever it may be. And so the younger me, I would say, prioritize. Don't think you need to or should do everything. Prioritize what needs to get done. Certainly in medicine, there's certainly emergencies that need to get done, and assess well, if we don't do this today, yes, the world will still turn. It'll be there in the morning, and nothing serious will happen.
That sounds really good. There's a lot of ideas in that for practice managers who sometimes my recollection of practice was just, you know, cramming everything in today. If they presented today, it must be done today. And the pressure that put their teams under was quite unbearable. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said for pacing yourself and doing things in an organised and less chaotic fashion, rather than having big expectations and then the expectation you'll be able to fit more in on top of that as well. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a big issue. Managers, practice owners, even ourselves. Oh, you know, yes, I'll see that walk-in.
Yeah.
You know, really, we should train our front desk to assess: is it dying or not, or can it come tomorrow? Let's schedule it.
Just do one more thing, but that one, you know, that last one more thing might be the one that is too many things. So
yeah.
I hear you on that. Thank you. That's good advice for me. That's what I'm learning at the minute too, is that transition between, you know, if you're a busy person, they say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. And so there's that, you know, when you are capable, there is that ability to just get lots and lots and lots done. But I guess as a mum now, then I'm looking at that going, well, like, you know, if other things are my priority, I could lose sleep when it was just me, but now it's not me that's a priority, and the rebalancing. So thank you. I hear that advice very well, and that's exactly what I need to hear at the minute as well. So that's good.
Awesome.
So we've got a few issues in the vet industry, and we're working on them, so that's good. But if you had a magic wand, like a, you know, Cinderella magic wand, and you could change something in the veterinary industry, what would you change?
Good question. I think I've alluded to it a little bit already, in that I think there has to be an awareness that we all have different requirements, either at the same stage, you know, being out 1 year, 5 years, 20 years. But sometimes the requirements for someone who is out 5 years might be the same as a 20-year-old. So I think we need to have a bit more tolerance and less judgment among ourselves, and a little bit more cooperation. I think that being a primarily female profession now, we can have, depending on the home situation, you know, 2 full-time jobs. And I think sometimes, or different priorities. And I think that we need to not judge each other on, you know, well, they want to do this, but I work 80 hours a week. What's wrong with you? Or you know, I don't think people should be taken advantage of, meaning, you know, the same people go home early on a snow day or whatever it is. But I think we should work together as a community. I think we should have standards, or try to consider and just start discussing the standards that we want in terms of expectations. Are we taking every walk-in just because they're calling or they want to come in when they've had anal gland issues for the last 10 days, you know, so I think we should try to set boundaries, control a few things, prioritize some balance and schedule. I think no veterinarian is averse to chipping in, you know, at the last minute on something, because it happens. I've never seen anybody, you know, go home, even if there's a pickup or whatever, you know, everybody, but it's how, you know, is that every night or not? So yeah, So changing the culture a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. That sounds really good. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that the change starts with us. That culture needs to change through conversations, like you indicated, around the standards that we're happy to impose on ourselves and on our colleagues. So that's fantastic. I think. Yeah. And these
I'm so sorry about that.
And these conversations are helping, I guess, reset that standard, or at least for us, set a standard and define our standard, and then hopefully help our colleagues as coaches also set their standards as well.
Yeah. And for the techs, for the managers, for everybody, I don't actually think, and this is where it gets confusing. I'm not sure where the impetus is, because I think a less stressed, more balanced veterinarian is more compassionate, less judgmental, is able to produce financially, if that really is always the bottom line, better. You don't miss charges. You establish stronger relationships. So I kind of think that there's so many advantages to just shifting this spectrum a little bit for everybody, whether you're the owner or the associate or the technician. There are not very many downsides, I don't think. And you know that. I'm speaking to the choir, right?
That's right, but that's why we're having the conversation, so that everyone can think about it in their own world and think about how they can take these ideas back to those busy practices and think about how it impacts them, and if they might be able to bring some of this wisdom into that room and influence the culture at their workplace and have a good impact. So
yeah. I think it does start with, you had said something when we were talking earlier, about it starting with each one of us kind of playing our role, either starting the conversation or setting a standard. Right now, when the person says, no, I've got to leave, it's looked at by the other 80% as a problem. But if it's done as an organized way before the scenario happens, where we discuss how different scenarios might be played out and make an agreement, I think it works better.
Yeah, I think that's key, to do it in the peace times and not in the war times, so that we all have an understanding of, that the pressure can come on, but we've got a design in place or an agreement in place that we know how we can navigate that tough time at the end of the day. So that sounds like a good idea. Just to wrap up, did you have anything else you'd love to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to emphasize the ideas that, especially for new grads, there's always going to be something to do at work. You'll never finish everything. So, I think if you approach it from, okay, is this life, death? What do I need to do? And prioritize the others. I think that you'll be more at peace with things, not feel as behind and beating yourself up, and there won't really be as great an impact on your confidence. I think that one of the reasons why I think working with the recent grads is so important is because once your confidence starts to sink or is impacted, it's a bit of a journey and a work to kind of get it back. And you sometimes don't really realize it's happening when it happens. So really, protecting who you are and your confidence and learning what you can control and not control, because number two is you do have choices, and you do, and by choices, you have self-power and control. So by what you do, how you respond, the limits and boundaries that you set. And then, what was the third one? This sounds a little, maybe when you get to my age, if you have the opportunity, I think, it would be valuable to, on some scale, once a year, every 6 months, to evaluate what it is that you want to attain, you want from your career, you want from your life. You know, it sounds a little bit morbid in that, you know, if you passed tomorrow, would you be satisfied with where you are? But, you know, I think a lot of people would answer that question, no, I'd change it a little bit. And so I think if you can just ask that every now and then, tweak a few things, plan and work from a point of intention and creating things, I think you'll be so much better off in the long run.
Beautiful, thank you. That's fantastic. And we graduated at the same time, so I'm the same age as you, so I can totally take your advice. I think it's about the life. I think it's about the age of your children. Actually, it's just like with a 4-year-old. I don't think I was as wise to wait to this age to have a 4-year-old, but that's okay. But yeah, I think they're really precious to learn, to be able to leave some work for the next day and to be at peace with that. And then to know where you're going. So each of us to think about how we're spending our time and make sure that we're spending it how we want to be spending it, because life is pretty precious, isn't it? So
it is, exactly. So
as my 4-year-old is evidencing, it goes very fast. So
yes, I know. Well, just wait. They get to their teens really quickly.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much today, Kimberley, Dr. Khodakhah. That's been just amazing. I just love that we are working on these things on the other ends of the earth, and you know, we see this need in our profession and we can help them. And Kimberley and I are going to stay in touch and bring some other things to you guys in the career coaching space. So we look forward to working with you more. And for those that follow veterinarycareers.com.au, then of course there'll be lots of interesting jobs there and lots of advice such as this will get posted up there, and you can just follow along and make sure you reach out and talk to one of us and have that conversation around, hey, I'm not sure, I love how I'm spending my time at the minute, and what can I do about it? And I'm sure if you're in the US, then Dr. Khodakhah would love to talk to you. And likewise, if you want to reach out to talk to me at any stage, then you're very welcome. So, yeah.
Yep. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And yes, we will continue to talk regularly about all our different ideas and projects. So that I look forward to it.
Look forward to the next time. Okay. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.